Thermaltake's got a new RGB keyboard, and it's got some pretty cool features. Let's find out if it's a thermal flake, or if it'll be your new thermal mate. That last one didn't rhyme as well as I was hoping it to, whatever. Out of the box, you get documentation, a keycap puller, some keycaps in a metallic red for MOBA or FPS games, a magnetic wrist rest, and the keyboard itself. Thermaltake's X1 RGB keyboard is a full-length peripheral with all the bells and whistles, featuring full key rollover, cherry switches in either blue or silver flavors, a 1000 Hz polling rate, onboard memory, a 1.8 meter braided USB cable terminating in 2 gold-plated USB plugs and a 3.5mm headphone jack for the USB and headphone pass-throughs, and 16.8 million glorious colors. About the top, you'll find dedicated media keys with the volume wheel that operates in lovely tactile steps, a Windows lock function, brightness control, and another button that looks like a gamepad that I'll talk about in a bit. The body is made of a really durable plastic, and beneath the double-shot keycaps, you'll find a white base plate to aid in the illumination of your fingertips. Around the bottom of the board, you'll find 5 rubber feet and 4 that fold out for 2 different levels of elevation. Finally, Thermaltake's logo can be seen brightly and evenly lit at the top corner. Now, let's take a look at the software. For the party in the front, you'll have 6 profiles for 6 different lighting effects. Static is the first option, allowing for per key lighting by fidgeting with the color wheel, then clicking and dragging or selecting them individually, and then playing with the brightness slider as you see fit. Next up is Pulse, allowing for the same options as previously, with the addition of cycling between random colors and speed control. Following that, we have the Wave effect, with direction, speed, and brightness control, in addition to a few preset patterns and the ability to customize your own by clicking on Add, then Add Stop, and adjusting the color wheel from there. Next is Spiral Rainbow, sporting clockwise or counterclockwise directional control and the same customizable parameters as the Wave effect. After that is Spectrum Cycling, effectively a color shift with more control for speed and brightness. Reactive is next, basically a type lighting key effect with per key control if you're into that kind of thing. Going with the flow, we have another reactive effect that shoots across the row of its respective key. The last type lighting effect is Ripple, allowing for either one solid color or a pattern similar to what we saw with the rainbow effect. Raindrop is the next one, allowing you to stick with one color or randomize it like abstract art. Following that, we have Snake Marquee with direction and either static or random color adjustments. Then Sound Control, allowing you to adjust the color of each row and having the visual meters originate from either the left, the bottom, or the middle. And finally, System Temperature with customization options at various thresholds. You may have also noticed this TT Rgb Sync section down here. If you've got several Thermaltake RGB components like fans, power supplies, or otherwise, this should link them all up. As for business in the back, create macros by clicking this little tile up top, then click Record. Do your worst, then click Stop. From there, you can edit delays, insert more commands, or delete them with the remaining buttons on the top. Alternatively, you can make a text macro that simply pastes whatever characters you've put in this big box. Once your macro is done, you can export it to be imported later, copy it, or delete it. To apply your macro, go back over to the keyboard tab, click on the key you want to assign your macro to, then click the key assignment dropdown. Here, you can change the key to a different single key of your choice, the macro function you may or may not have set up earlier with the options to repeat it, a media key, a key for opening up some basic programs or simple functions like copy and paste, launching a different program of your choice, selecting a specific function from a particular game like CSGO, League of Legends, World of Warcraft, and a bunch more, and finally, shutting that key up outright. Each of the 6 lighting profiles allows for up to 10 macro profiles. The software is a little rough around the edges, and it does have a tendency to crash on occasion. Macro creation could be a bit easier, like being able to drag and reorder commands, copy and paste them, or selecting multiple line items at once and deleting them with the delete key, and while the keyboard does have onboard memory, lighting profiles saved in the software don't carry over. But macros do. On the topic of things saved to the keyboard, if you're not impressed with the software, you can do the majority of things on the keyboard alone. If you have the software installed and running, that does take priority. Pressing Function and F6 will cycle through the lighting effects mentioned earlier, and Function and Scroll Lock will run through some popular gaming hotspots. While on a lighting mode, holding Function and pressing F7 through F11 or the arrow keys will allow you to alter them to some extent, like direction, color, and speed control. For example, on the Rainbow Wave effect, holding Function and pressing F10 repeatedly will control the amount of green that shows up in the gradient. F12 will show you the color you're currently set to. When you're on one of the gaming lighting modes, holding Function and hitting pause break will allow you to further fix up the LEDs to your liking. Continuing to hold Function and pressing F9 through F11 will adjust the color, F12 being the visual guide to your end result. Releasing Function and pressing other keys will set those keys to the color your F12 is displaying. Function and pause break again will finalize your selection. Other Function keys will launch some basic programs, and Function and W will swap your WASD keys with your arrows. For creating macros on the fly, press Function and print screen. Press Function and the key you want the macro assigned to, type your macro, then Function and print screen to end it. Finally, press Function and any of the keys up here to switch to the other onboard hardware profiles and start the whole process over again. In the event that you've made a terrible mistake, don't worry, there is an escape. Holding that key and Function for 5 seconds will reset anything saved on the keyboard. And then if you don't want to touch the X1 RGB gaming software or the keyboard, for some reason, there is a phone app that I can't use because it's iOS only. But in addition to adjusting macros and controlling lighting by voice or otherwise, it also allows you to use their virtual game controller, which I think is enabled through this button up top? Maybe? The keyboard in general has been really pleasant to use. I like the keycaps, which sport a pretty subtle font, the lighting is vibrant and bright, and while it isn't completely even across keycaps that bunk up with additional symbols, it's much better than other keyboards that have been violated by my fingertips. The lighting effects are pretty good, though when adjusting lighting speed in the software, it can get a little choppy when you're below the medium setting. But when you're adjusting it through the board itself, it's so smooth I can't believe it's not butter. Thank goodness for that, because I'd hate to grease this thing up. And to top it all off, the silver switches feel as good as ever. Have a listen. In my general usage, I found the board to be really pleasant to the touch, the lighting to be nice and vibrant, albeit a little choppy on some of the effects where the speed is below medium, and even the things I normally complain about on a keyboard like flaccid and thin wrist rests aren't a problem here. The magnetic thing sticks right on, removes just as easily, and is sufficient in length and girth for my preference. But that doesn't mean it's all thermal great. There are very few things I dislike about the keyboard, but there are still things nonetheless. There are the petty things like not being able to adjust the LED colors for brightness, the gamepad, and Windows lock, some of the lighting animations not being super smooth at slower settings on the software end, the Thermaltake logo sharing a zone with the escape key, and the extra keycaps being a little too gaudy for my tastes. And then there are the less petty things like the software feeling like it's not as good as it could be. For example, there's no way that I can see to easily bind profile switching to a single key. Even more on the software end, the type lighting effects act strange when you tickle the spacebar, but it all works properly when you're using the type lighting effects in the onboard memory itself. On the bright side, software can be improved, and aside from that, I can't find anything else to complain about. For around $140 for the silver switches or $130 for the blue, it's not that cheap, but it's also not too expensive. Thermaltake is offering a keyboard that looks good, packs a number of useful and aesthetic features, and feels pretty darn sturdy. With some software fine-tuning, you'll have something that I'd consider to be pretty hard to turn down, as long as you don't need dedicated macro keys. All that being said, Thermaltake's X1 RGB mechanical gaming keyboard passes with flying colors. And so that's all I have to say about that. Like, dislike, comment, subscribe, share, leave me questions if you got them. Thanks for watching. My name is Steven, and I am ALittleDIMM. Bye-bye. People keep telling me I talk too fast, and I never notice it until it's too late. A 1000 volt... That's not right. A 1.8 meter braided USB cable terminating in 2 gold-plated USB ports. USB plugs, not ports, damn it. The body is made of a really durable plastic, and beneath the double-shot keycap, the body is made of a really durable plastic, and beneath the double-shot keycaps, I hesitated. Around the bottom of the board, you'll find 5 rubber feet, and 4 that fold out for 2 different... oh geez. Damn it. Around the bottom of the board, you'll find 5 rubber feet, and finally, system temperature, with customization options at various thresholds, yeah. From there, you can edit delays, insert more commands, damn it, yeah, comment down below. In my general usage, I found the beard to be really pleasant to the touch. Beard? Board. For example, there's no way that I can see to easily bind profile switchings to why do I keep saying switchings?